Welcome, dear students. The focus of our current session is on American English vocabulary. I hope and expect that by the end of this session, you would have an idea of what is the nature of vocabulary in American English and how is it different from the British vocabulary. Well, my dear students, there never ever have been any major linguistic differences between American and British English. However, when it comes to, the vocabulary, we would find that there are some differences in the two. Moreover, the last 100 years or so have been increasing similarities between the two. There are certain reasons for that. Partially due to, the ever-improving communication systems. Now the world, as we generally use the term, has turned into a global village where, countries have come closer, where international communication has increased. People have got all those, possibilities of connecting to, each other. And the frequency of, this connection or this interaction has increased as well. The natural result is that the differences are fading away and similarities are increasing. Partly, this is also due to the impact of American culture, notably through television and film. I would say America is a powerhouse for generating all the media stuff, all the media material, all the television seasons and films and everything. It comes from America and it is disseminated in the whole world. It is watched in the whole world. You think of yourself, how much of, the stuff you watch that comes from America, all the seasons and all the English movies are from there. The natural impact is that the vocabulary that comes from there does not remain any more, strange to all these viewers, those who come in contact with this kind of stuff. So, even in the British English, a lot of, vocabulary items from American vocabulary are now accepted. However, when it comes to the differences, most of the differences still, as compared to pronunciation and especially as compared to grammar, still the differences in the American and British English are in terms of vocabulary. When we talk of American lexicon, North America has given the English lexicon thousands of words and phrases. In other words, I would say the overall fund of vocabulary of English has been tremendously increased by the American contribution. Several thousand of these words are now used in English as it is spoken internationally. So irrespective of whether it is being spoken in China or in Pakistan or in India or in Europe or even in the British Isles, everywhere, these vocabulary items are accepted and they are a part of regular usage. Well, my dear students, the process of coining of new lexical items started as soon as the colonists began borrowing names of unfamiliar flora and fauna and the topography from the Native American languages. When the British invaders came to the USA and started getting settled here, these were the times when, because they came to a different geographical area, they were introduced to a different culture. Naturally, to get fit into this culture, to get, adjusted in this geographical setting, they started borrowing words from the dialects that were found around in America. That was the beginning of the addition of vocabulary from, the American context into the British English. A lot of examples can be given. Names such as opossum, raccoon, squash, moose are a few examples. Other Native American loan words such as moccasin is another example. The languages of the other colonizing nations also added to the American vocabulary in the process. For instance, cookie, stoop, pit, etc. They came from Dutch language. Kindergarten, by the way. We are very much familiar with this word now in our context as well. It came from the German language. Barbecue, and who doesn't love it? It comes from Spanish. When we talk of the development of vocabulary from 19th century onwards, a lot of new words were introduced. For example, bartender, patrolman, busboy, white collar, boss, employee. And you would notice a lot of compounds were introduced because life was changing, because the life pattern, the lifestyle was changing, because the domains of human interaction were expanding. So you would find a lot of new words, and many of them are compounds. For example, if you look at the screen, you would find department store, supermarket, thrift store, gift shop, drugstore, gas station. These were all the additions that were made in the American vocabulary through the 19th century. A number of words and meanings that originated in the Middle English or early modern English and that have been in everyday use in the United States dropped in most varieties of British English. So this is one of the distinctive features of American English, that it tends to be a bit more conservative as compared to the British English when it comes to retaining the existing features of language. Whether it is grammar or pronunciation or vocabulary, American English has preferred to stick to or to retain, the usage, whereas British English on the way has dropped, certain things. Same is the case for the vocabulary. Certain items have dropped from the British vocabulary. They are still used in the American vocabulary. So, for instance, notice the term, if you look at the screen, fall, the term that is used for autumn, or diaper that is used for nappy, or candy that is used for sweets. These are often regarded as Americanisms because they have been, used there regularly, whereas we do not find them in British English. If we focus for a while on the term fall, it came to denote the season in 16th century England, and a contraction of Middle English expressions like fall of the leaf and fall of the year, they were used. But, from 16th century onwards, we would see, on the way it was dropped, and now it is not used in the British English. American English has still retained it. As an example, I would say in general American English, the season following summer is referred to as fall, as used to be the case in the British English, where the term autumn is now used. So in the British English, it is replaced with the term autumn, whereas in the American English, still the term fall is in usage. In general American English, the season following summer is, referred to as fall, and, this is a feature that that is a sign of how American English loves to retain the set of vocabulary and also the pronunciations for those. Well, the term fall gradually became obsolete in the Britain, but with the passage of time in America, the process was vice versa. It became more common. It became more popular with the passage of time, and it is now used as a common term in North America. Notice another example. British would say, they would call the front of a car as bonnet. Compare it with the American variety, they would call it a hood. British would call, the days that we call vacation, sometimes they would call them holidays, but Americans would call them vacation. I would like you to think of, what do you use? Do you use vacation or holidays? I think most of us use vacation. Again, that is because of the influence, of the American movies and the seasons and the television programs that we watch. Compare, how the Londoners would use the word flats. The New Yorkers would call apartments. I think we use both. Gotten, that is a past participle of get, is often considered to be an Americanism as well. So, you may consider the term in the grammar, or you may consider it as a part of vocabulary. But anyways, gotten with this en addition is used in American English, whereas the British English simply would choose got as a replacement. So, I hope by the end of this session you have some idea of that A, American English is comparatively more conservative and it retains the tradition when it comes to retaining vocabulary. B, that the differences in vocabulary between the American English and the British English, they do exist.